Viking warriors, known for their fearlessness and ferocity in battle, were integral to the culture and success of the Norse people. Their reputation as formidable fighters was well earned through their skills, tactics, and way of life, all of which contributed to the expansion and influence of Viking society. Viking warriors were often trained from a young age, learning to fight, sail, and survive in harsh conditions. Boys were taught to handle weapons like swords, axes, and spears, as well as to develop physical strength and endurance. This rigorous training ensured they were ready for battle. Vikings used a variety of weapons, including swords, axes, spears, and bows. The Viking sword, often a symbol of a warrior's status, was a prized possession, finely crafted and sometimes decorated. Axes, particularly the bearded axe, were common due to their versatility. Warriors also carried round shields made of wood and iron. Armor varied depending on a warrior's wealth and status. Wealthier Vikings wore chainmail shirts, while others used leather armor or padded garments. Helmets were also worn, though the popular image of horned helmets is a myth. Actual Viking helmets were simpler, made of iron with nose guards. Viking warriors excelled in various combat tactics, using their mobility and surprise to their advantage. They were skilled in guerrilla warfare, conducting quick raids on coastal towns and monasteries. The element of surprise was crucial, and their longships allowed them to navigate and strike swiftly. In larger battles, Vikings employed the shield wall formation, where warriors stood side by side with their shields overlapping, creating a formidable barrier. This tactic provided both offensive and defensive capabilities, allowing them to hold their ground or advance steadily. Among the most feared Viking warriors were the berserkers, who were said to fight in a trance-like fury, feeling no pain and exhibiting superhuman strength. Berserkers often wore animal pelts, like those of bears or wolves, which they believed endowed them with the animal's spirit and power. The Vikings' naval skills were unmatched in their time. Their longships, designed for speed and agility, enabled them to navigate both open seas and shallow rivers. This maritime prowess allowed them to raid, trade, and explore vast territories, from the British Isles to the coasts of North America. Viking raids were legendary for their brutality and efficiency. These expeditions were not just for plunder but also for acquiring land, settling, and establishing trade routes. Vikings founded several settlements, including Dublin, York, and Normandy, leaving a lasting impact on these regions. Warrior culture was deeply ingrained in Viking society, with a strong connection to their mythology and religious beliefs. The Norse gods, particularly Odin and Thor, were revered by warriors. Odin, the god of war and death, was believed to choose the bravest warriors to join him in Valhalla, where they would prepare for the final battle, Ragnarok. While men were the primary warriors, women in Viking society were also capable of fighting. Shield maidens, female warriors, are mentioned in Norse sagas and legends. Though their existence is debated among historians, these stories reflect the respect for strength and bravery in Viking culture. The Viking Age began to decline in the late 11th century due to several factors, including increased resistance from other European powers, the establishment of stronger kingdoms in Scandinavia, and the conversion to Christianity, which changed many aspects of Viking society. The legacy of Viking warriors endures in popular culture, historical studies, and archaeological discoveries. Their impact on the regions they raided and settled is still evident today, and their stories of bravery, exploration, and combat continue to captivate imaginations. In conclusion, Viking warriors were not just fearsome fighters but also skilled navigators, tacticians, and explorers. Their influence extended far beyond their homeland, shaping the history and culture of many parts of Europe. The image of the Viking warrior remains a powerful symbol of strength, adventure, and resilience. Viking men were integral to the fabric of Norse society, known for their roles as fierce warriors, skilled traders, and masterful seafarers. Their lives were shaped by a combination of martial prowess, exploration, and everyday duties that sustained their communities. Viking men are most famously remembered as formidable warriors who embarked on raids across Europe. Equipped with weapons like swords, axes, and spears, they conducted swift and brutal raids on coastal towns and monasteries. These expeditions not only brought wealth and resources back to their homelands but also spread their influence far and wide. Beyond their reputation as raiders, Viking men were also accomplished traders and explorers. They traveled vast distances, establishing trade routes that stretched from the Middle East to North America. They traded goods such as furs, amber, and slaves for silver, spices, and other luxuries, playing a crucial role in the economic networks of their time. The Vikings' prowess on the sea was unmatched, largely due to their advanced shipbuilding techniques. Viking men built and navigated longships, which were capable of traversing both open ocean and shallow rivers. These ships enabled them to reach distant lands and conduct raids, trade, and settlements. In their daily lives, Viking men were responsible for farming, hunting, and maintaining their households. They worked the land, raised livestock, and ensured their families were well fed and protected. Community gatherings, known as things, allowed Viking men to discuss local issues, make decisions, and settle disputes. Viking men were also deeply embedded in the cultural and religious practices of their society. They participated in rituals and ceremonies dedicated to the Norse gods, such as Odin, Thor, and Freya. They believed in an afterlife in Valhalla, where fallen warriors would feast and fight until the end of times. Many Viking men were also skilled craftsmen, creating intricate jewelry, weapons, and tools. They were adept at working with materials like wood, metal, and bone, producing artifacts that were both functional and artistic. In summary, Viking men were multifaceted individuals whose lives encompassed warfare, exploration, trade, and daily subsistence. Their contributions to Norse society were profound, leaving a legacy that continues to captivate the imagination of people around the world. The Viking Age, spanning from the late 8th century to the early 11th century, is often characterized by its fierce warriors, seafaring explorers, and intricate mythology. However, the daily lives of Viking children provide a fascinating glimpse into the upbringing and cultural practices of this historical period. From early education and play to duties and responsibilities, Viking children were integral to the fabric of Norse society. Viking children were typically raised in close-knit family units. The family, or æt, was the central social unit, and children were valued members of this community. From birth, they were integrated into the family's daily activities and household duties. Newborns were named during a ceremony known as Vatni, where they were sprinkled with water and given their name, marking their acceptance into the family and society. Infants were often swaddled and kept close to their mothers, who would breastfeed them until they were weaned, usually around the age of 2 or 3. The extended family, including grandparents and other relatives, played a crucial role in the upbringing of Viking children. Storytelling was a vital part of family life, with elders passing down sagas and legends that taught children about their heritage, values, and the world around them. Education for Viking children was informal and practical, focused on preparing them for adult responsibilities and roles within their community. Boys and girls learned by observing and participating in the daily tasks of their parents. Boys would follow their fathers to learn skills such as farming, hunting, and crafting, while girls would assist their mothers with household chores like cooking, weaving, and managing the house. Skills such as sailing, fishing, and trading were essential for boys, while girls were taught to manage resources and maintain the household. Storytelling was not only entertainment but also a key educational tool. Children learned about Norse mythology, history, and moral lessons through tales of gods, heroes, and ancestors. As boys grew older, they might receive more specific training in weaponry and combat, preparing them for potential roles as warriors. Girls were prepared for roles as wives and mothers, learning skills essential for managing a household and raising children. From a young age, Viking children had responsibilities that contributed to their family's survival and well-being. Children were expected to help with various tasks around the home and farm. This could include fetching water, gathering firewood, tending to animals, and helping in the fields during planting and harvest seasons. These duties were seen as essential training, teaching children the skills they would need as adults. Despite their responsibilities, Viking children also had time for play. They played games that mimicked adult activities, such as mock battles, which helped them develop physical strength and coordination. Toys like wooden swords, dolls, and board games like Nefadafel provided entertainment and helped children develop strategic thinking. Festivals and community gatherings were important social events where children could interact with others, learn community customs, and participate in cultural traditions. The transition from childhood to adulthood was marked by increased responsibilities and, for boys, rites of passage. As children grew into adolescence, their responsibilities increased, and they were expected to take on more adult roles within the family and community. Boys might accompany their fathers on trading voyages or raids, while girls took on more significant household management duties. In some Norse communities, boys underwent initiation rites that marked their transition to adulthood. This could involve proving their strength, bravery, and skill in combat. These rites were significant cultural events, underscoring the importance of bravery and self-reliance in Viking society. The upbringing and daily lives of Viking children played a crucial role in maintaining the cultural and societal norms of the Norse people. By learning through observation, participation, and storytelling, Viking children were well prepared for the demands of adult life.
Viking women played vital roles in their societies, with responsibilities that extended beyond the domestic sphere. They were integral to the social, economic, and occasionally political life of the Viking Age, which lasted from the late 8th century to the early 11th century. Viking women were primarily responsible for managing the household. They oversaw the daily running of the home, including food preparation, weaving, and making clothing. Women often participated in farming and animal husbandry. They could also be involved in trading, particularly in local markets, where they sold surplus produce and homemade goods. Viking women had more legal rights compared to women in many other contemporary societies. They could inherit property, request a divorce, and reclaim their dowries if the marriage ended. Marriages were often arranged for political or economic reasons. However, women had some say in the matter and could refuse unwanted suitors. Women of higher status, such as chieftains' wives, had significant influence. They could own land and were often buried with valuable goods, indicating their wealth and status. While less common, some Viking women participated in raids and battles. These warrior women are sometimes referred to as shieldmaidens. Historical evidence for their existence is debated, but they are prominent in Norse sagas and mythology. Women feature prominently in Norse mythology and sagas. Figures like the goddess Freya, associated with love, fertility, and war, highlight the reverence for powerful female figures. Historical examples of Viking women like Lagertha. According to the sagas, Lagertha was a renowned shield maiden and the wife of the legendary Viking hero Ragnar Lothbrok. Her story, though possibly more myth than reality, exemplifies the concept of women warriors in Viking culture. Gudrid Thorbjarnardóttir, a historical figure who was part of the Viking exploration of North America. She was known for her travels and is mentioned in the Vinland sagas. Archaeological discoveries, such as the Oseberg ship burial, have unearthed graves of women with high-status goods, indicating their importance and influence in Viking society. Viking women held significant roles within their communities, managing households, participating in agriculture and trade, and sometimes engaging in exploration and combat. They had notable legal rights, and their presence in Norse mythology and sagas underscores their importance. Viking society, while patriarchal, offered women more autonomy and respect compared to many other cultures.
The clothing of the Vikings was both practical and reflective of their environment, status, and resources. Made from natural materials like wool, linen, and animal hides, Viking garments were designed to provide warmth and protection against the harsh Scandinavian climate. Let's delve into the details of Viking attire. Viking clothes were primarily made from wool and linen. Wool, derived from sheep, was abundant and well-suited for cold weather. Linen, made from flax plants, was used for lighter garments. Wealthier Vikings might have had access to imported silk and finer textiles. Viking men typically wore a tunic and trousers. The tunic was a long, shirt-like garment, often belted at the waist. Trousers varied in style, some being tight-fitting while others were looser. Under the tunic, men wore a linen shirt, and over it, they might wear a woolen cloak fastened with a brooch. Viking women wore long dresses made from wool or linen, often with a shorter dress or apron over it. The dress was typically fastened with brooches at the shoulders. Like men, women wore a linen undergarment beneath their main attire. In colder weather, they donned cloaks or shawls for additional warmth. Children's clothing mirrored that of adults but was simpler and more practical. Boys wore tunics and trousers, while girls wore dresses similar to their mothers. As they grew older, their clothing would gradually resemble adult attire in both style and complexity. Viking footwear was made from leather, typically in the form of ankle boots or shoes. These were often fastened with straps or toggles. Belts, hats, and gloves were common accessories, with belts often serving as a place to hang tools or weapons. Hats were made from wool or fur, providing essential warmth. Jewelry played a significant role in Viking attire, indicating wealth and status. Both men and women wore brooches, necklaces, arm rings, and finger rings made from materials like bronze, silver, and gold. Designs often featured intricate patterns, animals, and mythological symbols. Viking clothes were not just practical, they were also colorful. Natural dyes were extracted from plants, roots, bark, and lichens to produce a range of colors including red, blue, yellow, and green. Wealthier individuals could afford more vivid and varied hues, while poorer folk wore simpler, undyed fabrics. Clothing varied with the seasons. In winter, layers of woolen garments, fur-lined cloaks, and warm hats were essential. Summer attire was lighter, with linen garments being more common. The ability to adapt to changing weather was crucial for survival. Clothing also held cultural significance. Specific garments or accessories could indicate a person's role within society, marital status, or achievements. Warriors might wear more elaborate attire or armor, reflecting their prowess and status. Our understanding of Viking clothing comes from archaeological finds, including well-preserved garments in graves, as well as depictions in Viking art and literature. These sources provide a window into the daily lives and customs of the Viking people. Viking clothing was a blend of practicality and cultural expression, designed to meet the demands of a harsh environment while also reflecting the wearer's social status and identity. From the sturdy woolen tunics of everyday life to the intricate jewelry that adorned them, Viking attire tells a rich story of resilience, resourcefulness, and artistic skill. The Viking longship, a marvel of naval engineering and a symbol of the seafaring prowess of the Norse people, played a crucial role in the expansion and influence of Viking culture during the Viking Age, approximately 793 to 1066 AD. These vessels, renowned for their speed, agility, and versatility, enabled the Vikings to explore, trade, and raid across vast distances. The longship's design and construction techniques, passed down through generations, reflect the ingenuity and maritime expertise of the Vikings. Viking longships were characterized by their sleek, symmetrical design, allowing them to navigate both open seas and shallow rivers with ease. Key features: hull shape. The long, narrow hull provided speed and agility. The shallow draft enabled the ships to sail in shallow waters and be beached easily. Symmetry. Both ends of the ship were pointed and identical, allowing the ship to reverse direction quickly without turning around. Clinker built. the overlapping plank construction, known as clinker build, provided strength and flexibility. This method involved fastening planks together with iron rivets, creating a lightweight yet sturdy hull. Keel. A prominent keel ran the length of the ship, improving stability and handling. Materials and craftsmanship. Wood. Oak was the preferred material due to its strength and availability. Pine and spruce were also used. Iron rivets. These were used to fasten planks and timbers together. Tar and wool. The seams were caulked with tarred wool to ensure watertightness. Viking longships came in various sizes and designs, each suited to different purposes. Karve. Smaller and wider, used for coastal voyages and trade. Snekja. Long and narrow, ideal for raiding and swift navigation. Drekker or dragon ship are larger ships adorned with dragon-head prows, used by chieftains and for longer voyages. The Vikings were master navigators, relying on their knowledge of the seas, stars, and natural phenomena to guide their journeys. While sailing they used the square sails, made of wool. These large, rectangular sails caught the wind effectively, propelling the ship forward. And they also used oars. Rows of oars along both sides provided additional propulsion, especially in calm seas or during river navigation. Navigation techniques. Sunstones. These crystals helped locate the sun on cloudy days. Landmarks and birds. Vikings used familiar landmarks and bird flight patterns to navigate. Experience and memory. Experienced sailors relied on their knowledge of wind patterns, currents, and other natural signs. The versatility of longships made them indispensable for various Viking activities like raiding. The speed and agility of longships made them ideal for hit-and-run tactics. Vikings could raid coastal towns and monasteries quickly, then retreat before local forces could respond. Trading. Longships facilitated trade across vast distances. Vikings traded goods such as furs, amber, and slaves with distant lands, including Byzantium and the Caliphate. Exploration. Longships enabled the exploration of new territories, including Iceland, Greenland, and even North America, Vinland. Warfare. Longships served as troop carriers during Viking invasions of Europe. Their ability to navigate both rivers and seas allowed Vikings to penetrate deep into continental interiors. Longships were more than just vessels, they were symbols of Viking identity and status. Artistic elements. Decorative prows. Often carved with dragon heads or other mythological creatures, these served both decorative and psychological purposes, intended to intimidate enemies. Burial ships. Important individuals, such as chieftains, were sometimes buried in their longships, surrounded by treasures and goods for the afterlife. This practice underscored the ship's significance in Viking culture. Mythological references. Longships feature prominently in Norse mythology, symbolizing journeys to the afterlife and the gods' own seafaring exploits. The legacy of the Viking longship extends far beyond the Viking Age. Numerous well-preserved longships have been unearthed in burial mounds and fjords, providing invaluable insights into their construction and use. Enthusiasts and historians have reconstructed longships using traditional methods, sailing them to demonstrate their capabilities and to honor Viking heritage. The image of the longship continues to captivate popular imagination, symbolizing the adventurous and formidable spirit of the Vikings. Viking longhouses, also known as langhus, were the primary type of dwelling used by the Vikings from the 8th to the 11th centuries. These impressive structures served as the heart of Viking domestic life and were designed to withstand the harsh Nordic climate. Viking longhouses were typically rectangular in shape and could range from 15 to over 75 feet in length, with some reaching up to 200 feet. The walls were constructed using wattle and daub, a technique involving woven wooden strips covered with a mixture of mud and straw, or from timber planks. The roofs were steeply pitched and covered with thatch, sod, or wooden shingles to provide effective insulation and protection against the elements. The interior of a Viking longhouse was usually divided into a central hall and smaller rooms or alcoves along the sides. The central hall was the main living space, featuring a long, open hearth running down the middle. This hearth was essential for cooking, heating, and providing light. It was the focal point of the home, around which daily activities revolved. Benches lined the walls of the longhouse and served multiple purposes. They provided seating during the day and sleeping platforms at night. In larger longhouses, there might be additional rooms or lofts for storage, weaving, or other household activities. Viking longhouses were multifunctional, accommodating not only the family but also their livestock, especially during the harsh winter months. Animals were often housed in a section of the longhouse partitioned off from the main living area, providing warmth to both the animals and the human occupants. The longhouse was not just a dwelling but a social and cultural hub. It was a place where families gathered, feasted, and told stories. It was also a space for communal activities and rituals, reinforcing social bonds and cultural traditions. The longhouse symbolized the Viking way of life, emphasizing community, resilience, and adaptability. Archaeological excavations have unearthed the remains of Viking longhouses across Scandinavia and beyond, providing valuable insights into their construction, layout, and use. These findings reveal the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the Vikings in creating durable and practical homes suited to their environment. In summary, Viking longhouses were integral to the Viking lifestyle, reflecting their social structure, cultural practices, and ability to thrive in a challenging climate. These sturdy and versatile structures remain a testament to the Vikings' skill and resilience.